Hello everyone, welcome back to another James Bond review. This time we are going to be reviewing Tomorrow Never Dies, the second entry in the Pierce Brosnan James Bond saga that we have going on. He was in 4 movies, he was a wonderful James Bond, and if you came from my last video, which was GoldenEye, you'll know how much I absolutely adored him in the role of James Bond, how much I adored that film and how special it was to me. Now, it's been a little bit of a while since I've actually last recorded, and not much new has changed. Now, for people that are new to the channel, hello, I am Ross. For people that have been here before, hello, I am Ross. For people that haven't subscribed, hello, I'm Ross. Subscribe. Do something with that little subscribe button down below and give it a like if you feel the urge to do that for me. Now, Tomorrow Never Dies is, as I said, the second James Bond movie. It was released in the hectic period of 1997, which was around the same time that Titanic came out at the cinemas. Now, I'm not one to give history and retrospectives and things like that on movies. That's other channels. I can do that at some point, but I need a lot of time to do that and a lot of research time and a lot of editing time. I don't have those things. This is a very bare bones channel. As you can see, I script, I stand in front of the camera, I operate the camera, the microphone, and I edit and I upload myself. Not very good at doing all of that, but I try my best. Now, as I said, this movie came out in 1997, which was 2 years after GoldenEye. And GoldenEye was pretty much a relaunch of James Bond to the modern audience. We hadn't seen James Bond at that point since 1989 with License to Kill. We had a 6-year gap before he returned as Pierce Brosnan returned as James Bond with GoldenEye, and then a 2-year period with Tomorrow Never Dies. And this is pretty much the first movie with James Bond that I watched at the cinemas after being a fan of James Bond. Now, I did see GoldenEye at the cinemas. I was a fan of James Bond after that because of the video game, which really pushed it to the forefront of nerd levels for me. But this came after GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, and it was like the big thing for me. I watched this at the cinemas. I don't remember much of my time watching it at the cinemas, but when it came out on VHS, I was watching it as many times as I could. Now, I do own it. It is back there. I think I've hit that correctly. It is back there. I do own it. I did own GoldenEye. I've lost that VHS for now, but I will one day reclaim it. But yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies was an absolutely... What's the correct way to say this? Probably for about 10 years after the movie came out, I loved Tomorrow Never Dies. It was a fun James Bond action spy thriller adventure. It had really fun action, a cool car chase sequence, a very sexy Bond women, but there was something about the movie that I wasn't so crash hot on, and that was the musical score by David Arnold. I didn't really enjoy the techno-themic type of score that he gave us, although it did really push to the forefront the James Bond theme, which is used so many times in this movie. The heavy use of, well, not even heavy use, the techno-inspired additions to the score, I wasn't so crash hot on. I really did like the kind of metallic, grungy, rough feel to the GoldenEye score. And this one here was a little bit polarizing for me. I really wanted another score like GoldenEye. I didn't get that, and we got this one in this film here. And it was a bit, I don't know how to feel about this. It's not to say I don't like David Arnold's score. There are some wonderful pieces in in this movie, and the soundtrack alone is brilliant, but there was just something about it that I wasn't crash hot on. I wanted a classic Bond score, because at this point here I was kind of starting to watch the classic Bonds a little bit more, and this felt like a very abrupt change from the John Barry scores that I was now starting to listen to back in 1997. But I should begin. The movie Tomorrow Never Dies actually begins with 007 on a mission, and he's viewing like this terrorist arms deal. There's like a whole bunch of international terrorists, and they're all meeting together just off the Russian border, and it's this nice mountain, snowy area. There's jeeps, jets, massive amounts of vehicles, weapons, bombs, everything you can think of. There are a crap ton of terrorists all meeting up to do deals together and stuff like that. And while he's there, he's sending a transmission back to MI6. So M's there watching it, and she's got one of the rear admiral guys there for the Royal Navy, and he's there and he's watching it too. And they're like, well, we've got all these terrorists in this one place. Let's just bomb the whole thing. And M tells him, no, our guy's there, which is Bond. Let him get out of the area. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, the missile. So anyway, he gets in contact with one of like these battleships that's out on the ocean. I guess that's where battleships are. And he orders them to fire a missile at this terrorist organization meetup. So that goes off. That's now flying toward the area. And I do love those little brief Navy moments in this movie. But anyway, the missile goes flying off towards the area, and Bond's there, and they're telling him to get out of the area, and Bond's like, no, I can't get out of the area, and then reveals why. And there are these two fighter jets there that have parked on the runway, and mounted on one of the fighter jets are two nuclear torpedoes. And if the missile that's been sent from the battleship hits and blows up this area, the nuclear fallout will be absolutely devastating for all areas around this meetup. So they try and abort the missile. They can't. It's out of range. So they tell Bond, get the hell out of there now. But Bond's like, that's not going to happen. So he now goes through, kills a couple of people, blows up a few things, manages to get inside one of the jets, takes off down the runway, takes off just as the missile lands and explodes, and then has a fighter pilot attacking him from like where the co-pilot would sit behind him. So he's dealing with this co-pilot guy. At the same time, the other jet had taken off on the runway at the same time as Bond, and he's now shooting at Bond. So Bond's avoiding machine gun fire inside the plane. It's a really cool sequence. And avoiding a guy who is strangling him. Not trying to, this guy is strangling him. Bond's fighting this guy off the co-pilot behind him. And then eventually manages to get out of sight of the enemy fighter pilot, gets underneath his jet, which is a really fantastic sequence. I love the way it's all filmed. Ejects the co-pilot out. He goes flying into the jet that's now above them, and then they go off and explode. And then we go into the title sequence, the theme song, which is Tomorrow Never Dies by Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow, Tomorrow Never Dies. It is a good theme song. It is just good. It doesn't sit in the top 10 for me. It doesn't even sit in the top 20 for me. It is a good James Bond theme song, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's got anything new or different, or it's not exciting. There's nothing like, it doesn't do anything different that any other singer could have done. That any other singer couldn't have done, I should say. K.D. Lang does do a fantastic song in the credits of this movie, the end credits of this movie, called, is it Surrender? Let's presume it's Surrender. If it's not, I'm going to pop up whatever it is on the screen. That was originally written, I believe, as the theme song for this movie, and David Arnold even used some of the familiar themes from Surrender, the KD Lang song, throughout this movie, throughout the musical score. And it's a really, really beautiful song to listen to, and KD Lang has got amazing vocals on her, and it pays off. So if you ever skip the final credits of a James Bond movie, just watch them for this song alone. I apologise, my cat is going ballistic down here because he's got his toy and he's playing with it. Anyway, so after we finish the Sheryl Crow "Tomorrow Never Dies" song, we go into the movie proper, which we start off, and it's actually on like a frigate, the HMS Devonshire, I believe it's called, and it's a British naval warship, and they are being kind of like warned by two Chinese MiG fighters that are flying above them and circling them, kind of thing. And they're warning the Royal Navy, like, hey, you're in Chinese waters right now. You need to leave because we can consider this almost like a threat and attack you. And the British are like, well, no, our GPS locations are matching up. We're actually in international waters. We're not in Chinese waters right now. We're safe. We're on course. There's nothing happening out of place here. But the Chinese MiG fighters are telling them, no, you're in our waters. This can be considered almost like a war threat. You need to leave our area. At the same time, on the water, we see this stealth boat. It's at night, so you can't see it, and it's not visible by radar to either the Chinese or the British. And this stealth ship is just kind of moving its way around the area. And on board the stealth ship, there's this massive, I guess it's called a sea drill in the movie, and it looks like, I don't know, like the size of a small car. And it's a drill, and they lower it down into the water, go for the Devonshire, the ship, and start ripping through the ship, ripping through all the areas to actually sink it. And they're going to sink the whole thing. The British think that it's actually a torpedo fired by the Chinese MiGs. The Chinese MiGs don't know what's going on, so the stealth ship shoots a missile from its own ship. It shoots a missile, blows up one of the Chinese MiGs. So now all of a sudden the Chinese are going to think the British have attacked us, and the British are going to think the Chinese have attacked us, and no one's going to know any different. But what's actually happening is the stealth ship is using a GPS encoder device to trick the Devonshire, the ship, the British ship, into thinking that they're in safe waters when actually they are, in fact, in Chinese waters. So they don't know, but the stealth ship's doing it. And the stealth ship is owned by a guy called Elliot Carver, who's like this, I guess, he's a media mogul. He runs a newspaper called Tomorrow. He's launching a news broadcasting network. He's pretty much like, who's that guy, that Fox guy that owns all those, the Fox media companies and everything like that? He's pretty much that guy there. And he's played by Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce plays Elliot Carver. He, in this movie, I absolutely hate him. I cannot stand the way he types on the keyboard, and he's got such a pretentious way of talking. I hate him, but in saying that, Jonathan Pryce does a brilliant job because I absolutely hate Elliot Carver. I cannot stand him. His whole mission in this movie is that he wants to actually start a war between the British and the Chinese. Then he wants to get a corrupt Chinese general called Chang into power to stop the war between the Chinese and the British, then give media, he wants to give broadcasting rights to Elliot Carver, and then Elliot Carver will have global broadcasting rights and all these things, and then be able to broadcast in China. It is a convoluted scheme that he's working on. He wants to start a war pretty much for media. And because of his newspaper called Tomorrow, once he attacks the MiG fighter and the Royal Navy and does all that stuff, he then posts it, or publishes it, I guess, the Tomorrow paper with information that MI6 doesn't even have the full information of. So MI6 now knows, hang on a second, someone at Tomorrow knows this information, something's going on, they shouldn't have this information. So now Bond has to go to Germany, where Elliot Carver is at the moment, to find out who's doing it and what's going on, because they've realised that one of the satellites was involved in this, and it was a satellite owned by Elliot Carver. Now, Elliot Carver's wife, who's called Paris Carver, is played by Terry Hatcher, and she and Bond in the past had a romantic relationship. So as M and Moneypenny say to Bond during their mission briefing in the car on the way to the airport, you need to cozy up to Paris Carver and then pump her for information. And then Moneypenny goes, you'll just have to... What's the correct term?
You'll just have to decide how much pumping is needed, James.
And it's a sequence that's... It's just... Look, it's a fun sequence. I do enjoy it. I like the fact that Bond looks a little bit uncomfortable with Moneypenny and M bringing up his past love life and telling him pretty much, you need to have sex with this woman and really get all the information you can out of her. Especially considering in GoldenEye, the movie prior, Moneypenny's telling Bond that what he says to her could be considered sexual harassment in the workplace. And anyway, it's a fun sequence. I like it. It's filled with innuendo. It's good to see Pierce Brosnan look not only a little bit upset, but also a little bit like intimidated by these two women saying this to him. And then when Bond gets to Germany, he's met by Q, who's posing as like a car rental insurance guy. Bond gets his brand new BMW, which is a family sedan, packed, absolutely packed with weapons, a mobile phone to control the car. It's got everything. Self-inflating tyres, bulletproof glass. The mobile phone is more packed than the car. It's got everything. It is like they made up for what GoldenEye was missing, which was a car chase sequence. They put it into this film here. Anyway, as the movie plays on, Bond eventually gets introduced to Elliot Carver, and I think within the first 3 minutes of meeting, he pretty much tells him, I know what you did to the Royal Navy ship, and I know what you did to the MiG fighters, and I'm going to take you down. And Bond is introduced at this party, at this big media, event. He's introduced to Wei Ling, who's played by Michelle Yeoh, the very beautiful Michelle Yeoh. Very young looking too in this movie. Wow. And she's we don't know at this point, we find out a bit later on, she's a Chinese secret agent, and she's also investigating Elliot Carver. And throughout the events of the movie, we find that they have to start working together. They investigate the Devonshire, which was sunk by Elliot Carver's stealth ship in the movie. They find that one of the missiles is missing, and they're going to use that missile at the end of the film, because there's like a 48-hour timer that Bond is working on, where the British fleet will arrive at the Chinese waters, and then World War III is pretty much going to start. So they're pretty much telling Bond, you've got 48 hours to stop this, or else this will happen. So they're going to use one of the missiles, Elliot Carver. He's going to use one of the missiles that he stole from the Devonshire to entice the Chinese into starting a war with the British Navy. And I absolutely love when Bond and Michelle Yeoh, because they are working together and they figure out that there is a stealth ship involved. They get onto the stealth ship in the movie, start planting bombs, start blowing it up. And because they've started to blow it up, it's now visible to radar. And as the British Navy all of a sudden start seeing this ping on the radar that wasn't there originally, and the Chinese communicate with the British and say, hey, we're going to let you deal with this. We'll stay here. You deal with this. So the British are like, you know what? Let's just fire everything we've got at this stealth ship. Let's bring it down. And They certainly do help, but Bond walking around inside the stealth ship with a machine gun in one hand and his Walther P99 silenced in his other hand, doing double shots at people. He goes on a killing spree in this movie. Pierce in this movie, I think, takes out the most amount in any James Bond film up to this point. Look, I have such a smile on my face. I mentioned a little bit earlier that for the first 10 years that this film came out, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a really fun, entertaining James Bond film. It didn't really do anything special. It didn't really do anything that offended me. It was just a really fun movie. Then for about 15 years, I absolutely couldn't stand this film. I would have put it right next to Diamonds Are Forever at the bottom of my James Bond list. And I was really sour on this movie for so many years. I didn't like anything about it. I hated the score. I hated the direction of the way that the movie was directed. I didn't like the action sequences with the slow motion added in. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like the forced kind of, almost like they were trying to be filled with innuendo. I didn't like any of that. I absolutely hated it. And then, I don't know what it was. It was like, I watched the movie again. I think it might have been actually 2024. I did a James Bond rewatch, and I watched them 3 times in 1 year. All the James Bond movies. And every time I came to Tomorrow Never Dies, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really liking this movie. I'm really actually enjoying this film. I know it's got like problems. I know it's not a bad movie though. And I know it's not a great movie. It was kind of like dead center for me. It was like, all right, it's definitely not GoldenEye. It's not going to live up to the GoldenEye hype that we had. But there is nothing wrong with this film. It's got, as I said, good action, fantastic car chase sequences. There's a brilliant BMW motorbike sequence in this movie where Bond and Wei Ling are handcuffed together and they escape a Carver Media building. And they go down the side of the building, holding onto the ropes of a massive poster, break in through the window, walk through the office building. It's a really fun sequence. Run downstairs, steal a motorbike, and Bond is on the front of the motorbike. Michelle Yeoh is behind him, and he's got his handcuff like that, and she's got her arm holding the other side of the motorbike. So he's doing one thing, she's controlling the clutch. She's constantly like moving to the front of him, and then she'll move to the back of him. They're outrunning them. They've got Elliot Carver's henchmen are in helicopters coming after him. They've got vehicles coming after him. It's a fun sequence, and watching it in the last couple of years, I've just realised how much I actually enjoy this movie, and it feels like I remember when I watched what was it called? The Man with a Golden Gun. And I am going to compare these two movies in a small way. So Man with a Golden Gun, when I watched it this year, originally for my review, I was a little bit sour on the movie. I didn't really like it that much. I wasn't having a good time with it. And then someone in the comments told me, you really need to rewatch it again, pretty much. It was a fun movie. It was really enjoyable. So before I started watching The Spy Who Loved Me, I rewatched Live and Let Die Again, The Man with the Golden Gun, and then I started watching The Spy Who Loved Me. And the second time I watched The Man with the Golden Gun, I was absolutely in love with it. I just found it to be a really good villain, a fun basic plot, Roger Moore, ever dependable, brilliant. And that's how I feel about Tomorrow Never Dies. I compare it to The Man with the Golden Gun because that's how I feel with this movie. Pierce Brosnan is brilliant. You've got 2 beautiful Bond women in the way of Terry Hatcher and Michelle Yeoh. Absolutely spot on there. You've got some fun action sequences right at the beginning of the movie. You've got the car chase sequence, the escape from the Carver's Media building. You've got the motorbike sequence. You've got the little jet area. You've got the Devonshire boat attack and everything like that. You've got a great, although I hate him, you've got a good villain. He's just good. He's a good villain. And you've got a good henchman in the way of Stamper, who is a guy that's just like that big, tall, blonde henchman that's just like invincible. Bond stabs him, Bond punches him. This guy doesn't care. And it's fun. It's a really fun and exciting movie. And I'm really glad that I've taken a little bit longer to review it because I have watched it. My wife actually asked me the other day, which Bond film are you up to now? And I said, Tomorrow Never Dies. And she goes, haven't you watched that like 10 times? And I said, actually, I've watched it about 15 times beginning to end in the last month. And that is no word of a lie. I have really enjoyed my time with Tomorrow Never Dies. It's not in my top 10. It's not in my bottom 20. It just sits right in the middle. It is a fun action film. And I say it's more action because there is a lot of action in this movie. And you can kind of see that the Pierce Brosnan era of Bond really did slowly go from a spy thriller adventure to more of an action adventure feel with his movies. Nothing wrong with that. Really, 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 really good time with Tomorrow Never Dies. If you haven't seen it in a while, watch it. I absolutely loved it. I'm sure that there's things that I'm missing. There is, what's his name? Dr. Kaufman. Dr. Kaufman is a guy that is ordered by Elliot Carver to kill his wife, Paris Carver, inside Bond's apartment. And this guy what does he say? He's like he can make anything look like a suicide, he reckons. And he's really good with the, what does he say? The celebrity tapes, like the celebrity overdoses. And it's a fun sequence where he's pretty much said, I've killed her. I'm going to kill you, Mr. Bond, and I'm going to make it look like a murder-suicide. And the way Bond gets out of it, he uses his mobile phone, and if you push a combination of buttons at the bottom of the mobile phone where the charging port is, two little electro prods come out and it works as a taser. And Bond uses that to kill Kaufman, or uses it to stun Dr. Kaufman, and then uses the gun and kills him because he's a professional and he's just doing his job. So there's all these little fun bits in this movie. It's a highly enjoyable film. Tomorrow Never Dies. Really glad that I took a little bit of extra time to enjoy this film. Now, I'm going to get on to the kill count. And it is a fair bit. So the Bond kill count is 23. Bond has an absolute murderous amount of people in this movie. He takes on everyone. So he does a lot of killing in this film. And like I said, when he's in the the stealth ship at the end of the film, and he's got the machine gun and he's the P-99 silenced, I love that little sequence there. But then he's got like a rocket launcher that he shoots the hydraulics of it, and he's going around, he's just firing it and just blowing people up. Also really fun. We've got locations visited. So the locations, I've got 5 here. I've got the Russian border, hard to pinpoint where. London, England, obviously. We go to Hamburg, which is in Germany. The US Air Base in the South China Sea, where we get to meet up with Jack Wade in his second and final appearance. And Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Ho Chi Minh City. So 5 different locations. And then for ladies bedded, we actually have 3. We have the professor who Bond is sleeping with when he's first contacted by Moneypenny. And as she calls Bond, you always were a cunning linguist. Anyway, we have Paris Carver and we have Wei Ling. And I just want to talk a little bit about Michelle Yeoh in this film, because I had no idea who she was before I watched this film. I watched her in this movie, did a little bit of research afterward, found out she was pretty big in Chinese movies and things like that with martial arts. Really enjoyed her in this movie. I really liked her chemistry with Pierce Brosnan in this movie. And I've become a pretty big fan of hers since then. Michelle Yeoh, yeah, she's really good here. And I love the fact that they don't play her up as a helpless woman. I mean, she does get saved by Bond at the very end, But up until that point, she's holding her own and she's taken out. There's a whole sequence where they invade her like little safe house, and Wei Ling takes out like I think it's 5 guys on her own. She's just knocking them all over the place, kicking them off ladders, off stairs. It's really fun sequence. So look, it's not my longest review, but in conclusion, I will say Tomorrow Never Dies. Absolutely had a great time. Get onto it if you haven't yet. Hell of a time with this movie. The next film we're going to be reviewing is The World Is Not Enough, or Twine as some people call it, which is Pierce's 3rd Bond entry. And I've got a whole story behind that one there when I went to go see it if you care about it, but I'll get into that when I get into that. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate you here. If you want to give a like or subscribe if you haven't, by all means, even leave a comment down below. I really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next time. Ross will return.
You always were a cunning linguist, James.